walking around in historic Heidelberg, Germany. So picking up where we left off last time, we are in Heidelberg, Germany on our half-day excursion out of Frankfurt. The way we typically handle our vacations when we do one of these big kind of overseas trips, what we do is we figure out kind of the time of year when we're going to go, book the airfare first, because that's always kind of the trickiest part. And once we get the airfare booked, and of course we usually do that well in advance, then we take care of the hotels, because by that point we've mapped out like which cities we're going to go to. So kind of book the hotels. And then the last thing we do, and in this where this excursion comes in, is we go to Viator. It's viator.com. And on Viator, we kind of look at the cities we're going to go to, and we figure out what excursions we might want to do. This particular one was a half-day Heidelberg excursion out of Frankfurt. Highly recommended. I would give it the maximum number of stars possible. By the way, you see right there, that's actually a couple that's getting married, and they've got their photographer kind of walking around behind them taking pictures, which was kind of cool. We just got lucky and stumbled across that. But the Viator situation works out very, very well for us. The one thing that I would note is that Viator's excursions typically are based out of the larger cities. So, when we were looking at Germany, for instance, we decided to plan our hotel stays in Frankfurt, Munich, Berlin, the larger cities, because when you look at the excursions on Viator, they typically base them out of there. So right here, I'm just kind of giving you some different looks at the historic area of Heidelberg. If you were to look at it on the map, the historic area is sort of more on the eastern side. This area we're in right here is very close to the castle. We're just up from the river. As you can kind of tell from these buildings, they look like they've been around for quite a while. I mean, this is the whole, the cobblestone streets. Bicycling is everywhere in Germany, as you probably can tell from here. And if you've seen some of the other videos that I've put up from Frankfurt, and when we get to other cities later on in the series, you'll definitely see it. Bicycling is everywhere. But these buildings, this area has been around for quite some time. The first part of the excursion was sort of a walkthrough in the area right around the old bridge and down by the river with a guide, and she was explaining a lot of the history, and it's just really fascinating. So right here we kind of transition from this area we're in right here over to the historic market. Again, we're very, very close to the castle. You can almost see it in the background if the camera turns the right way. But this was a pretty neat area, so we had a little bit of time to ourselves to just kind of roam around, and we had to meet the guide back because the next part of the excursion, so we had to meet the guide back down at our meeting point, at a certain time. So she gave us probably a half an hour to kind of walk on our own. And the next part of the excursion was to actually go into the castle. But right here, we're just kind of walking around the market and just checking things out. And the only thing that would have been nice would have been to have a little bit more time where we could have eaten lunch or, kind of really peruse some of the shops. But we were on such a tight schedule in terms of the timing of the excursion. And again, it was only a half day. And this is Heidelberg, where you're taking a bus from Frankfurt down to Heidelberg. So part of the excursion is the drive from Frankfurt down to Heidelberg, and then of course going back later on. So they've got you on a very tight schedule in terms of the timing, but it's still a really, really good excursion. It would have been nice to eat here, but just a really cool area, and we got lucky. The weather was spot on perfect when we were there. This was right at the beginning of September. This may have actually been September 1st of 2018. So if you're planning a trip to Germany, you definitely want to take into account the time of year that you go and what the weather might be like at that time. You'll notice in the videos, as we're walking through here, you see plants on the ledges, right outside, like on the windowsill. And that was kind of cool. I noticed that as we were walking around through Heidelberg. It gives it that old traditional look, I guess you could say, from kind of back in the day. And it was pretty neat to see that. You know, a lot of flowers everywhere, and just beautiful scenery in Heidelberg. So at this point, we're on our way back to meet our guide as we're getting ready to head to the castle. And that place right there just really caught my attention as I was walking by. I just thought it was really, really cool. Back where we started. So coming up next in the series, we take a look inside the Heidelberg Castle. Hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button and don't forget the bell icon so you can be notified when I post a new video.